Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of Michael and Mom Talk Cancer. I am your official host, Michael Kramer, and...
And I'm Michael's mom. This is Ashley. Hi.
So it's been a while.
It has been a while. We've missed this podcast. We hope you've missed us as well.
I know, it's been a long time since we released an episode, but that's what we're here to talk about today. We're going to be talking about beauty in pain.
Did you hear that? You need to hear that again.
Yes, beauty in pain.
Because the last couple of months have been a lot of pain, but
there was a lot of beauty in it.
So much beauty.
So yes, the past 2 months have been really difficult, challenging mentally and physically, but we're not really here to talk too much about that. I kind of want to talk more about the beauty in the pain that I've, been through, and everything that I've learned, and all the amazing conversations we've had with people, and just how meaningful this last admission was, even though it was so long, difficult, and not what I wanted to go through. It ended up being something that I learned so much from.
Yeah, I agree. It was the hardest admission, right? In one way, it was like the hardest, the most difficult. But in another way, it was definitely the most rewarding and the most beautiful. That's why we were, saying that it's the beauty and the pain.
Because, I had to go through 2 different surgeries in that month and a half, and I had gallstones. So initially we thought, I'm just going to get my gallbladder removed. I'll be home in a week. But because of my health issues and all the inflammation I have in my liver, it was way more complicated than that. And I initially had to get a drain placed in, which was a super painful procedure. And it took me so long to recover from that. And after I recovered from the drain, a few weeks later, they did an MRI, and they realized, okay, the inflammation has gone down, and it's now the best time we have to actually remove my gallbladder. So I had 2 surgeries in that span of 6 weeks, and it was super painful. And the whole time, I was not once was I ever comfortable.
Still not
physically, and I'm still not.
Say right now, you're not comfortable.
I'm still recovering, and it was a long process, and
plus very unexpected.
Yeah, it was very unexpected, but it was insane to me. I was admitted, and so many people were like, oh my god, how are you? Like, as soon as I was put in the 6th tower, I was just shown so much love, my mom and I, and it was beautiful to see that people really care so much, and there's so much good out there, and there's so much love that there is to be had, and I was just so moved by all of it, and it really inspired me and still inspires me to this day.
When Michael just said that, so I remember back over a year ago, one of the very first videos that I ever made, and in one part I said, people are so good, I can't believe it. And at that time I just felt so much support and love, but I feel like now it's even deeper. And literally the day Michael was admitted, that day, I remember we got to the room, it was in the evening, and there were 2 nurses that they were clocked out. Like, they were done, they could go home. And they stayed in the room for an hour or 2, just talking to us, and they sat on the floor, and they laughed with us, and that kind of set the tone for the entire time that we were there. And it's like this universal thing that I feel is that we keep seeing how in the hardest of times, the best of the best comes out. And I know there's so much going on in the world with COVID and so many difficulties and financial things, and life is hard, but we keep getting it shoved in our face how many beautiful things there are as well if you open your eyes to them.
It's true. I could have looked at this admission I'm stuck in the hospital for this long, this sucks, but one of the biggest things that I actually took away from this was there's so much beauty in pain, and you learn so much. I was in a hospital bed, unable to do anything. like I had to learn to let go of everything again that I thought I was, and it taught me just at the end of the day when you're sitting there in a hospital bed and all you have left is it's you. It's just all you have left, and it taught me so much about myself and about talking with others and just simply asking other people how their day was and little things like that. And I really learned that one of the best medicines for pain is actually laughter and joy, because I could be in so much pain, but then one of the nurses could come by and say a joke or come in and have a conversation with us,
A
and
smile. They would
a
come in, a
smile, yeah,
smile.
and it would change my whole
Your whole
mood.
day, yeah.
And I feel like that's part of why I'm recovered from that and home now. I'm still in pain, of course, but I feel like part of the reason why I'm better is because I was so inspired, and those people helped me so much just to get through those hard times, and it was just
It
beautiful.
okay, so I'm his mom, as yeah, you guys know this. As his mom, I will say that I also saw Michael. Like, people would walk in the room, and in the past, he's always been a great guy, but in the past, I feel like they would walk in and he would say hi. He was very polite, but now I could see Michael also saying, "Hey, how are you?" and actually really looking at people. And what happened, this admission that was so fulfilling and beautiful, is for me, for him, and I think for the people that walked in our room, is there were genuine exchanges of conversation, of emotion, of
Caring for each other and
caring for each other.
checking in on each other no matter what, because
Yeah.
we would ask the nurses how they are, and I used to not be selfish, but I used to be like, oh, I'm the one in the hospital, they should be caring about me. But again, I learned everybody has their things, and ask somebody how their day is, and it,
But not just ask, but to
yeah,
care, because
but to
just
care,
asking is
yeah,
one thing, but I felt like we built true relationships when you were admitted a year ago, because it was just over a year ago for that. Not quite as long, actually. This time was even longer, but for the bone marrow transplant, it was more about getting you better. But this time, it was more about, yes, getting you better, but also, I don't know, learning who you are and learning who the people around you were. We met so many residents that we bonded with, and you know, your doctor, I felt like we got to know so much better too, right? Dr. Maher became like
yeah,
a he became like a part of our family as well, again in a different way. I don't know, just the importance of that. We were talking about it today, Michael, but there's something like we all go on our phones and on our computers and we put up a certain wall and we distract ourselves from what's going on, or we get bored. And I feel like now people, our attention spans are maybe shorter and we always want to be occupied. But in that hospital, it wasn't really easy. And one thing is, with your nausea, it was really hard for you to like go on your phone and just like zone out. Even watching a
yeah,
movie, I would be like, let's watch a movie and distract, and it would make him nauseous. And so the only options left were conversation. And it's the most basic things out there, but the most important and the most moving as well.
yeah. It definitely was. It was so. It was just amazing, I think.
I don't know. One of the things we were talking about too was balance, and that is, so there's Michael has a couple of amazing doctors, and this time we had a lot of doctors. There were surgeons, there were GI doctors, there was a liver specialist, plus his bone marrow transplant doctors, who are definitely part of our family. But one of his BMT doctors loves to talk about balance. But there was something this time that I grasped differently, and it was that the lower that Michael went, like physically and mentally, because it was challenging for both of us mentally, but the lower, the more difficult it was on one side, the balance was, the deeper and richer life was.
Yeah,
Because sometimes when you're just like strolling along and everything is just a straight path and there's not ups and downs, this was like the down was so down, but then the up was so high. There really was that balance of seeing the more difficult it was, the more fulfilling it was.
yeah, and that's kind of just like everything in life as well. And it was that reminds me of when after the surgery they told me I had to walk, They told me the day after surgery I had to walk, and I was sitting in bed. And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to get up. I was in so much pain. Like this walking, I was shaking, and I had to take humongous deep breaths just to be able to walk. And I was walking so slow, I could barely get up from my bed. It was one of the greatest challenges I think I've ever had to overcome. It was harder than walking after my transplant because I had so much stomach pain. It was hard to keep my posture. My knee was hurting. My legs were so atrophied. I lost so much weight because that whole time that I was in the hospital, I wasn't eating. I was on IV nutrition, and sure, that sounds like it's enough, but it's really not. You feel so weak and depleted when you're on IV nutrition for 5 straight weeks. And I lost a lot of weight. I lost all the muscle I was trying to build back up, and just getting up and saying, okay, I have to start somewhere was so difficult, but it was so rewarding because I realized it's the hardest thing I'm gonna have to do, but I have to be strong, and that's what I found true strength was to me, is getting up and continuing to go even when you've been knocked down
And
a
knocked
bunch
down
of
and knocked
times.
down and knocked down and keep getting up every time.
Yeah, and every time I've been knocked down, it's like I've gotten weaker, but so much stronger mentally. I feel like at my weakest points physically is when you have to be your mentally strongest. And that's what happened to me in this admission. I was so weak, but I was so inspired by the people around me and everybody who was telling me, you're gonna get better, you got this, you can do this, and the people
Everyone.
who pushed
It's
me
true.
and told me to get out of bed. The physical therapist there,
Oh,
she pushed me. She was like, you have to get out of bed. To me, I looked at her, I was like, do you know how much pain I'm in? But she was like, oh, just roll on your side in the bed and then slowly stand up. And she had to hold me up, and in order for me, I had walked from my bed just to like the window in the
yeah.
room, which was only a few feet. And I was laboring in breath, in so much pain. It
But
was,
you did it.
yeah, I
And
did
she didn't
it.
give up. She was amazing. She came
Yeah,
every single day. She was
she,
amazing. She encouraged you, but you also, I think you encouraged her, because that is again part of the exchange, is that when she walked in, you didn't go, okay, go away, leave me alone. You were like, okay, this is painful, this is awful, but the only way to get better is I can't block out my pain. I have to go through it. And we've talked about going through it before. And this was another example of the only way to get to the other side is through. And it was so hard to watch you in so much pain.
yeah, and I had no choice because the surgeons and the doctors were like, well, the only way for your pain to go away from the surgery is to walk. I had to walk. It was like I had no choice. If I wanted to get better, I could stay in bed all day, feel sorry for myself, complain, take all the pain meds I wanted and just sleep. But instead, I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to get healthy again. I need to get back to my liver treatment. And I just knew that the only way to get better was to push through. And it was the same thing I've already talked about. Just getting up, showering, and continuing on with the day was so difficult. But
Well, the first showers, your mommy was in there with you.
yeah, and I'm not afraid to admit that I needed help to
No.
shower, and that was
Yeah,
really difficult.
it was. But I'm gonna go back to like what was really also so incredible. So we were there for Thanksgiving, and
And for
and
Christmas,
for Christmas, and Thanksgiving. Stephen, your sister and brother came. There was no food involved,
I
but
couldn't eat.
couldn't eat at all. But we were just so thankful to be together. And also, this admission, I felt like with Stephen and Jennifer, like every time they came, even when it was so hard, we just relaxed together. We just talked, and it was so easy and nice. And I don't know, because again, it's like part of life right now for everyone. We have so much stuff, and we were at the bare minimum. We were with a bed in a room, no TV. We did have music because I love music, but it was like taking it down to the bare minimum.
We were so thankful for all the little things, and just
Yeah.
just being together was enough. We didn't need
And that's so cliche. I
It's
know
true.
everyone
It's
says
true,
it,
but
but it was so
when
cliche and so true.
when you go through something like this and you do it with your family, you really come to appreciate the smallest of things because you kind of. I'm not saying I had nothing, but I had not much. I couldn't eat. I could barely walk. I was in pain, and I was super weak. So I was stripped down to just me in that bed, and just thankful that I was alive and breathing and be able to see my family and be with them on that day.
Going back to the mental struggles of this, by the way, this was super challenging, but we did have support too because there is an amazing psychologist that we're like, I want to say she's more like family and friend now. And she did give us support because it's okay to need to talk to someone.
Yeah, it's true.
Because it's really hard to get knocked down this many times and still get up. And he does get up successfully every single time. But it is not easy, and you are so strong. But also, you're so vulnerable, and vulnerability is where a lot of your strength lies because you are willing to be vulnerable, Michael. And you're willing to ask for support and admit that you are not a Greek god because who you are is so much deeper than that.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And again, like, we just, so every moment, and we also had conversations, like, we had religious conversations, we had spiritual conversations, we had conversations that were silly, we had conversations about relationships, we danced to funny music.
Yeah, that we had a lot of fun
We
despite
did.
all the pain. But I remember there was one moment where one of the night nurses, we were talking about the Polar Express, and I remember that I we were talking about it and we're like, what is it really about? And I was just like, it's just about believing in something. And I think that's one of the biggest things from this admission that I took away is just believe in something to push through, believe there's a purpose for all you're going through, and that's kind of what got me through all that. Was I was like every day I would, I'm not like a very religious person, or I would pray a lot, like for myself and for other people, and pray to get better, and I would always just I knew something was gonna switch up and I would improve, and I did, and that's because I just believed in the power of healing, and I just gave myself a chance, and I don't know.
Yes, believing in something is so important as well. And I don't know, believing in the good, believing in God, believing in the universe, believing in angels, and whatever it is. And we talk to a lot of people, and people believe in different things. But when you believe in something, we feel stronger. There's more. There's more to people. There's more to goodness. There's more to the world. There's more to the universe. There's so much to believe in, and it's the magic of the Polar Express, and maybe it's the magic of Santa Claus and the magic of the angels, whatever it is for you, the magic of Star Wars and the Force. But there is something that, and believing in something makes you strong, gives you hope, and we have so much hope. Believing in the power of music and dance and good cheer and humanity and the good things. And oh my goodness, we had parties in our room. Everyone wanted to be in our room, Michael.
Yeah, it was the room that taught me a lot, and it taught me to, believe in people and just.
And I believe in you. People love you, but there's a reason people love him. And I guess that's what I'm getting at is the people love Michael, and the reason they love Michael is because he's so willing to be vulnerable. He's so willing to let people in and open his eyes and open his ears and listen and see. And that's one thing that we could see people for who they were. And we always say that, it's not important the way you look. But my goodness, this was also another really valuable lesson in that, because everyone would come and say, wow, Michael, you look so good. And, he would see a picture of himself. He'd like, I don't look good. But the thing is, he was like just glowing with beauty because his insides are glowing. And the people that would walk in our room and their shift would end at 8 o'clock and they would leave our room at 9:30 because they were talking with us and laughing and playing guitar and singing, and they were just beautiful.
It's very true. When we were first admitted, it was like we were home in a sense, which is funny because it was the hospital, but it felt like coming home the way we were welcomed, and it's really different to compare home at the hospital and our actual home because we've spent so much time in the hospital. It's literally like a family reunion.
It is.
When I was admitted, and seeing everybody was like seeing family again.
Yeah, and it's so ironic. We'd be like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. But of course, you don't want to be admitted to the hospital.
Yeah.
Home means a lot of different things.
Yeah, and going actually home from the hospital is a lot more challenging than people think. And it's something I want to talk about because as soon as everybody heard, oh, you're home, it's like the first thing that people think is, you're all better
You're
now.
better. You're fine.
Like
All's
you're
good.
done. Like you're good because you're home. But the truth is, things don't get easier at home. You have to adjust. I was in a hospital for a month and a half, in a hospital bed with the comfort of, residents being around 24 hours, nurses being there 24 hours in case I needed anything for pain, for nausea, for sleep, for this or for that. And you don't worry as much. But when you're home, it's
you're not hooked up to an IV anymore.
Yeah,
you're not getting fluids when you're dehydrated. You're not getting TPN. You're not getting,
And you really have to relearn to care for yourself. And it sounds silly, but you have to remember to drink. You have to remember to eat, to take your medications. You have to do all these things. And it's not like I go home and I'm just cured. I have to go back and be in the hospital still 4 days a week, just like I was before, between University of Miami and Nicholas. So it's like I had this long, admission, and then it's back to work, which is fine, and I'm happy I can get back on that road. But it's difficult, and it's a huge challenge, but that's just the reality of it, and that's how life is sometimes. You just have to keep pushing because it's not just gonna get easier because you want it to.
Yeah, and it is wonderful to be home, and we're so happy that people are so happy that we're home, but definitely coming home is its own challenge as well, and it's hard. And he came home, but he's not healed. He came home because we felt like he was healthy enough to continue his healing process at home, but it's a challenge. And it's good to see our cat.
Yeah, it's a blessing to be home.
It's a blessing.
But
it's good to have a kitchen. It's good to have the
some privacy. Yeah, it's true.
But home is like so many things. Home can be our house. Home is very often the hospital. Sometimes I've heard Michael be very sad and say, I just want to go home. And he doesn't mean a place. He means a time. He means a time when he was healthy. He wants to go home. And I know that time is going to come again, but never the way it was. And that's what's hard too.
Life takes on a different meaning after all of this, and it's been beautiful, though.
There's so much
so
beauty
eye-opening
in this space.
to...
Yes. And also, I feel like we're just so changed. When Michael left the bone marrow transplant unit, when he was admitted for that, it was just over 5 weeks. This was over 6 weeks. And when he came home, it was a lot of relearning everything. And this time, he said, physically, it's just as hard, maybe harder. But the thing is, this time, your soul is so much deeper. So even though it's the same challenge physically, I just feel like this time you coming home, your soul is so deep and so rich. But then again, that also makes you more vulnerable too, because you feel everything so much. And that's good too.
Yeah, it's true.
But he looks really, really good. Like, if you could see him, he's got like really good hair. And okay, his bilirubin is high, so it makes him look kind of tan. And he's really cute. He's like...
I got the Grinch eyes.
He does have the Grinchy yellow eyes. But we like the
true.
Grinch. Come on, the Grinch at the end ends up being a really good guy. And so, being the Grinch is not like the worst thing in the world, Michael Kramer.
I guess so.
Michael's still pretty sick, so maybe he doesn't sound as energetic as before.
Yeah, we had to
And
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
trying to
sorry if
tone
I
down my energy here.
yeah, I'm sorry if I don't sound as energetic as before. I'm very tired, but I love recording this podcast, and I think people love hearing it, so it's worth putting all of my energy into it. So thank you guys so much for
Thank
listening, and
you.
just want to know each one of you means so much to me, and just whenever somebody says they like the podcast or
We're
shared
blown
it,
away. We're so happy.
it touches my heart because, I'm putting myself out there and it's a lot, but thank you guys. Goodbye from your official host, Michael Kramer,
Minus a gallbladder.
aka the King of Six Tower.
Yes, Michael, King Michael. And actually, I'm not known as anything on the Sixth Tower. I guess I'm Michael's mom.
She is the most beautiful mom. That is what she is.
I love you, Michael. Thank you so much for listening.
Yes.
We'll be back soon.
Goodbye.